I want to hear why, but do you think that calling Elon Musk a dick is effective messaging for confronting what is a potentially irreversible transformation of the U.S. government?
Well, he is a dick. And I think that he's also harming the American public in an enormous way. And what I think is really important, and what the American public want, is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight. This is an actual fight.
I'm joined now by Congressman Robert Garcia. That was you during a hit with CNN, basically coming back to the whole civility police argument. You called Elon Musk a dick at a committee hearing. This is a guy who right now is pilfering the federal government, slashing funding for Medicaid, for folks with disabilities, for vital programs that offer HIV prevention, water, food for refugees, and on and on. I think it's a pretty accurate assessment. And yet, when you were questioned about this during your conversation on Legacy Media, the focus was, again, back on this sense of decorum. Can I have your response to that on kind of the misguided focus, the misplaced focus in the moment that we're in right now?
Yeah, I think calling Elon Musk a dick is pretty kind, actually, considering everything that he's done.
Right.
And I want to just go back one step. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the chairperson of this committee, this DOJ committee, which is a complete joke and disaster of a committee. And she was literally showing pornography in just last year in this same oversight committee. And so I brought my own dick pic, which was a picture of Elon Musk. And let's be really clear what he's doing. I mean, this idea that we're going to somehow now police ourselves when the other side will throw everything in the kitchen sink at the country, at working class people, at Democrats, and we're supposed to sit back and kumbaya with them and be bipartisan, I think that is ridiculous. And I think what people are telling me and folks on the ground are saying is we need to actually match that energy. Now, we're going to be truthful, we're going to be honest, we're going to stand up for working class people, but we've got to match that fire with fire. I think that's really important.
Are you worried about the asymmetry that exists in the media, though, where Democrats have to be held to a certain standard, and yet Republicans barreled through that? I mean, that ship has already sailed years ago. So because Trump gets created on the curve and the rest of the Republican Party gets created on the curve, and yet Democrats are still held to this standard of decades ago, how do you think that asymmetry is going to play out in terms of our effectiveness and in terms of being able to hold the Republicans to account?
Well, I mean, I think that's exactly right. I mean, let's be really clear. The media treats essentially Donald Trump as some celebrity president. They allow him to get away with horrific things. They've normalized the kinds of things that he says. And then we, the police, our own language. So it's completely, I think, this idea that the media is biased. The media is biased against Democrats and progressives and is absolutely generally in the tank for Donald Trump. And I think that what he has been able to do, he's a master communicator. I think people need to understand that he's a master communicator. He also happens to be a terrible person and a terrible president, but he understands the medium. And I think what we have to do as Democrats is pull some of that attention away that Donald Trump uses to then pass his horrible policies and shine the light on the horrible things he's doing and on our agenda of actually helping people, taxes for middle-class people, helping students, supporting seniors, strengthening Social Security. Those are the things people care about. We've got to communicate better, though.
Congressman, what do you think Republicans would say if a Democratic president was in office right now and basically gave George Soros unfettered access to pilfer all of our federal agencies?
I mean insane. I mean, I think if Joe Biden or Barack Obama brought in the richest person on the planet, or George Soros or anyone else, and it just allowed them to do whatever they wanted with our information, they would be going ballistic. They'd probably be attacking the Capitol again multiple times. And so these folks are, besides being completely, in my opinion, insane in the way they're viewing the world, they are serious about destroying our institutions and our democracy. They want to fundamentally change not just the United States, but they want to change the world in the way they view it. Their view of the world, their view of our country is one where you take care of yourself and your family and screw everybody else. And that's a conservative principle that I just cannot support. I think what makes Democrats being progressive, I think the right way forward for us as a world and country is that we believe in taking care of those that need help the most. That government is in place to help people. And that's something that unfortunately we're not at right now in our country.
Right. The government is in place to help the people who need it most, not the people who need it least. And yet that's what we're seeing right now. To that point, this is a Republican Party that swept into office amid promises of lowering costs and rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse to restore some sense of fiscal responsibility back. And yet right now we're seeing that they're seeking to raise the debt ceiling by $4 trillion to make way for $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. Can I get your reaction to that in light of what was promised during the campaign?
Well, the reason why all of our agencies are being raided by Elon Musk, the reason why they're trying to cut $1 trillion or $2 trillion from agencies, from Medicaid, the Department of Education, which provides assistance to children with disabilities in their classrooms, why they're trying to eliminate foreign aid to starving families and children in other countries. Why are they doing this? Because they want to save money, save resources, so they can package that all and then put together a tax plan that then benefits Elon Musk, his companies, and his billionaire friends. So this is all a way of just getting more money they can give to themselves. It's the largest redistribution of wealth fiasco that we've seen in the modern era of American politics. They are stealing the money of hardworking people and giving it to themselves. I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, that's not even just theoretical. We've seen contracts be doled out, defense contracts for SpaceX. We've seen contracts that just popped up in the news in the last 24 hours. I think it was $400 million for Teslas from the federal government. And so we have proof of this happening in real time. And so there's not even any plausible deniability for these folks anymore who are seeing, for example, that when you're seeking to cut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which returned $21 billion to consumers who were defrauded by banks and financial institutions, by cutting USAID, which is 0.5% of the federal budget, not only offers us soft power benefits across the world, but does real humanitarian good, like delivering water and food, HIV prevention across the entire planet. All those have to be cut so that Elon can then get hundreds of millions of dollars for himself in the form of tax cuts or back to his own companies. And so does that ever, I guess for your Republican colleagues, does that ever come through that really what they're facilitating is just a big handout to the folks who most closely align themselves with Trump? Or is it just, look, Trump says jump, they say how high because God forbid they get on his wrong side and invite some type of primary that's bolstered by Trump and funded by Elon?
Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, I think Republicans at this point will do whatever Donald Trump wants them to do. I mean, that's clear.
Yeah.
He's breaking the law. He's signing unconstitutional laws and executive orders that are being challenged in the courts, but that they are supportive of and are in the tank. They're abdicating their responsibility of being members of Congress who are the actual piece of the government that actually funds the government and creates programs and agencies. They could care less about that now. But at the same time, I think most of this House majority is in bed with the billionaire class in this country. Right now, at this moment, we have to understand that it's the American people versus the billionaires. And the very, very rich in this country are trying everything they can to take more wealth from working people, from middle-class families, so they can continue to enrich themselves. And as they get richer, as Elon Musk has gotten only dramatically richer since Donald Trump became the president, what are they doing? They're buying more social media companies. Yeah. They want to buy more television stations. They want to buy more radio channels across the country. So they want to consolidate more and more power and more mass media and then remake them in their image. And we're at a very, I think, dangerous place. And people say, sometimes I'll get folks say, I think you're overreacting on this. I'm like, I'm not overreacting. Like, we're in a really bad spot. And people need to wake up right now that we fundamentally, if we don't fight really hard, we may never get the country back that we've all believed in, live in, and love so much.
And by the way, that's the sentiment that I hear from folks overwhelmingly on the outside who pay attention to this stuff and are recognizing it. And in fact, it's this sense of, it's not this bad. That's what frustrates people, I think, when our fears for what we're seeing play out in real time, right in front of our eyes, are kind of downplayed in deference to Republicans. And this idea that we have to keep conferring onto them goodwill and that they couldn't possibly do what we've already seen them say out loud that they're going to do. I mean, we couldn't possibly see them incite an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. They wouldn't do that. We go to cocktail parties with these people. Is there a red line for your Republican colleagues as we continue to see power consolidated in the executive branch, as we continue to see someone like Mike Johnson say that, you know what, let's cast doubt on court rulings that basically serve as a bulwark against executive branch overreach. Is there a red line, even in private, from your Republican colleagues who say, okay, there is a point at which we can't just pay blind deference to Trump anymore?
I mean, it's scary, but I don't think so. If you're not willing to stand up and say that an attack and trying to overthrow an election was wrong, and try to recreate that history, if you're not willing to stand up and say, oh, by the way, yes, Donald Trump did lose that election, Joe Biden won it. These are just facts. I mean, basic facts. And if you're willing to lie in an obscene way to the American public and then try to recreate and rewrite history, I'm not sure there is a red line. Donald Trump has proven that he just stomps all over any red line or any norm that we've ever had. And I think that our party and Democrats in Congress need to be aggressive. One, in attacking the Republicans back, pushing back, and understanding that people on the ground, our constituents, they want to see us fight. Like, they do not want to see us working with Republicans or Elon Musk. You know, somehow we're going to find some savings, or that's over.
Yeah.
We've got to push back really hard.
Well, that's the perfect place to leave off. Grateful for the sense of fight that you're showing, and for your time today.
Thank you.